In this video, I'm going to show you how to generate a simple Power BI calendar table in Power Query based on a rolling number of X days. So in my example, I want my date table always to contain today's date plus or minus 761 days. To do that, we need to go into Power Query. You'll see that previously I've created a query that just returns today's value, date.from, datetimezone.utc now. I find it very useful to have this query within my model to reuse again and again within Power BI. Now, if I go to create my date table, go to New Source, Blank Query, and we'll call this Dates, and go to Advanced Editor. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to use list.generate to generate a list of numbers from 761 to minus 761, and then we're going to assign dates to that with 0 being today's date. So for the function, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go over to the Microsoft website, to the list.generate page, and here we've got an example of using list.generate that will generate a list of numbers from 10 down to 1. So if I just paste that in, and I can change 10 to my top value 761. Each needs to be greater than minus 762. I'll decrement by a value of 1 each time. And that's created a list of numbers from 761 down to minus 761. If I right click on the header, I can convert that to a table. And this gives me a single column table with those numbers in it, except they're in text format, and I want to change the name, so let's call the column RelativeDay. And it so happens this is a very useful column to have in my dates table because I can use it to calculate things like rolling 28 days and things like that. And I'll change the type to whole number. And now I'm going to use this column with the dateAddDays function to generate my date column. So if I go to Add Column, the custom column, and my column name will be date, and I'm going to date add days, which is the first option there, and the first argument is a date time, and I'm using today as the reference point, and I'll call the query that I generated earlier, date today, and I simply want to add the relative day value in each row to that to generate the date value for that particular row. It's as simple as that. That's generated my date column, except it's in text format, so what I want to do is convert that to date format. So just before the last parenthesis, if you type comma, type date, that's now given me a date column that I can now save this query. Close and apply. And one last thing to do is to tell Power BI that this is a date table. So mark as date table, select the column date. That'll get rid of my date hierarchy that you can see there. And there we can see our date table, the relative days going from minus 761 to plus 761, going through today, where today is date 0. From there I can add on whatever columns I want for my date table that suit my particular purposes. I find that's a nice quick way, literally just a few lines, to generate a very flexible date table that I can expand later.